Welcome to True Crime Sleep Stories. I'm your host, Kelly Brink. Tonight, we're drifting back to an era when childhood felt boundless, yet shadowed by emerging fears. A time of rotary phones, station wagons, and evenings where the only curfew was the fading light. And punctuating it all was that iconic public service announcement, broadcast nightly on televisions across the nation.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
This wasn't sparked by a singular catastrophe. Instead, it emerged from the broader anxieties of the late 1960s. Urban unrest, climbing crime rates, and a society where both parents often worked, leaving kids to navigate their worlds with a freedom that now seems almost mythical. The phrase first appeared around 1964 on KHJ-TV in Los Angeles, but it truly took root in 1967 at WNEW-TV in New York, crafted by promotions director Mel Epstein during a summer marked by riots in Newark and new youth curfews in major cities. From there, it spread like a quiet wave through station networks, including Westinghouse outlets in places like Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Boston. Over the years, celebrities from Reggie Jackson to Cyndi Lauper lent their voices to it, transforming a simple reminder into a cultural touchstone. It was never intended as a scare tactic, more like a soft tap on the shoulder amid the evening news. Check the beds, lock the doors, ensure everyone's accounted for. But as the 1970s and 1980s unfolded, with headlines filling with tales of children who vanished into the ordinary moments of their days, that question began to carry an unintended weight. A whisper of what could go wrong when the world outside grew just a little too vast. In this episode, we'll explore those stories, weaving them together under the umbrella of that nightly query. We'll linger in the neighborhoods where freedom met fragility, examining not just the disappearances, but the societal shifts they mirrored. The rise of stranger danger, the latchkey kid phenomenon, and the hidden networks that preyed on vulnerability. All told in a way that lets you relax, reflect, and perhaps drift off, knowing these tales, while haunting, led to changes that made the world a bit safer. But first, we'll take a short break to hear from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back with your full, uninterrupted story. Settle in, dim the lights, and let the echoes of those old broadcasts carry you back. I'll be here waiting. Hey, true crime fam. If you're as obsessed with all things true crime as I am, I've got the ultimate event you need to add to your calendar right now. CrimeCon 2026 is happening May 29th through the 31st at the iconic Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. It's going to be a true crime lover's dream come true. Picture this. You, me, and all your favorite true crime podcasters, best-selling authors, investigators, and TV personalities all in one spot. Panels, live shows, meet and greets, exclusive stories, and that electric vibe of being surrounded by thousands of fellow armchair sleuths. It's not just a convention, it's the ultimate true crime vacation in the heart of Las Vegas. Whether you're there to deep dive into cases, geek out over forensics, or just soak up the community energy, CrimeCon delivers it all. And here's the best part. If you use my special code, SLEEP, at checkout when you grab your tickets, you'll score a discount and you'll be helping me out big time. Seriously, it means the world to me, so thank you. Head over to crimecon.com to lock in your spot before tickets sell out. Mark those dates, May 29th through the 31st, 2026, Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. Don't sleep on this one. Pun intended. I can't wait to see you there. Welcome back to True Crime Sleep Stories. Now, make yourself comfortable. Adjust the pillows, turn down the lamp, and allow your mind to wander into the soft glow of memory. We're about to embark on a narrative journey through the 1970s and early 1980s, an era when Generation X was coming of age amid a mix of independence and invisible threats. Picture the scene. Families gathered around bulky television sets.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
This question wasn't just words on air, it was a reflection of a changing America. Post-war suburbs had given way to economic pressures, with more mothers joining the workforce and divorce rates climbing. Children, especially in working-class neighborhoods, often fended for themselves after school, playing kickball in the streets, exploring woods, or biking to the corner store without a second thought. It was an age of scraped knees and sunburns, where be home by dark was the only rule. But beneath that carefree surface, crime statistics were ticking upward, particularly in urban areas, fueling a subtle parental unease that the television PSA gently amplified. Let's begin in the sweltering summers of Houston, Texas, where the early 1970s brought a chilling reminder of how that freedom could be exploited. In neighborhoods like the Heights, boys roamed freely, seeking adventure or pocket change through odd jobs. Enter Dean Corll, a seemingly unassuming man in his 30s who worked at his family's candy factory. To the local kids, he was the candy man, generous with sweets and offers of parties or paid work. But from 1970 to 1973, Corll, aided by two teenage accomplices, David Owen Brooks and Elmer Wayne Henley Jr., systematically targeted at least 28 young males, most aged 13 to 20. These weren't random grabs in the night. Many victims were lured from everyday spots, bus stops after school, convenience stores during evening errands, or even from their own blocks while walking home as dusk fell. One boy, 13-year-old James Dreimela, vanished after being seen near a grocery store. Another, 15-year-old Randall Harvey, disappeared while riding his bike to a movie. The pattern was insidious. Promises of fun or money drawing them into Corll's various residences, where they were restrained, subjected to prolonged torment, and ultimately murdered through strangulation or shooting. The bodies were disposed of methodically. Some buried in a rented boat shed on Silver Bell Street, others in the sandy soils near Lake Sam Rayburn, and a few along the beaches of High Island. For 3 years, Houston parents might have heard the 10 p.m. PSA on stations like KTRK or KHOU and assumed their sons were just out late with friends. But whispers grew, missing posters accumulating, families searching parks and alleys in vain. The nightmare unraveled on August 8, 1973, when 17-year-old Henley, during a heated altercation at Corll's Pasadena home, turned a gun on his mentor and fired in what he claimed was self-defense. Henley then led police to the grave sites. Over the following weeks, excavators uncovered 27 bodies, marking one of the most gruesome serial murder sprees in U.S. history. Brooks and Henley were convicted, Henley receiving 6 life sentences, Brooks 1. Corll's death left many questions unanswered, but the case exposed how predators could blend into communities, preying on the unsupervised moments that defined childhood back then. As Houston grappled with its grief, the PSA's question took on a darker hue nationwide, reminding parents that the streets their children wandered on weren't always as safe as they seemed. This theme of hidden dangers in plain sight echoed in other cases where even groups of children weren't immune. Shift now to the dusty roads of Chowchilla, California, a small farming community in the San Joaquin Valley. It was Thursday, July 15th, 1976. A typical summer day with temperatures pushing into the high 90s. 26 students from Dairyland Elementary, ranging from 5 to 14 years old, had spent the afternoon swimming at the local fairgrounds pool as part of a summer school program. Their bus driver, 55-year-old Frank Edward Ed Ray, a steady, kind-hearted man known for his reliability, loaded them up around 4 p.m. for the short drive home. But on Avenue 21, a rural stretch flanked by almond orchards and cotton fields, a white van suddenly blocked their path. 3 masked men armed with guns emerged, ordering everyone off the bus. The children, 19 girls and 7 boys, including siblings and friends, were herded into 2 darkened vans, their windows covered. Ed Ray was bound and forced in as well. The hijackers then drove the empty bus into a nearby drainage slough, concealing it with bamboo and brush to buy time. What followed was a disorienting ordeal designed to confuse and terrify. The captives were driven around in circles for about 11 hours, covering roughly 100 miles despite the relatively short straight-line distance to their destination. Stops were made only to switch drivers or refuel with no food, water, or bathroom breaks. The children, some crying softly, others trying to comfort the youngest, endured the stifling heat and uncertainty. One girl, 9-year-old Jody Heffington, later recalled huddling with her friends, whispering prayers. Finally, in the early morning hours of July 16th, they arrived at a rock quarry owned by one of the kidnappers' families near Livermore, about 110 miles northwest of Chowchilla. There, the group was forced at gunpoint down a ladder into a buried moving van trailer, converted into an underground bunker. Stocked with minimal supplies, mattresses, some snacks, and fans that soon failed, the hatch was sealed with dirt and a heavy metal plate weighted by batteries. Buried alive in pitch darkness, the air growing stale, the children and Ray spent the next 16 hours fighting panic. The youngest clung to older siblings. Ed Ray, drawing on his farmhand strength, organized the group, but resilience won out. Ray and 2 teenage boys, Michael Marshall and another, stacked the mattresses to reach the ceiling. Using wooden supports and sheer determination, they pried open the hatch after hours of effort. Emerging into the quarry around 8 p.m. on July 16th, they flagged down a watchman who alerted authorities. All 27 survived, physically unharmed, but forever changed. The perpetrators, Frederick Woods, 24, and brothers James and Richard Schoenfeld, 24 and 22, were scions of wealthy Bay Area families. Their motive, a $5 million ransom from the state, inspired by movies like Dirty Harry. Arrested within days thanks to a notebook left in the bunker with Woods' name, they were convicted of kidnapping for ransom and initially sentenced to life without parole, though the Schoenfelds were paroled in the 2000s and Woods in 2022. The case highlighted how even rural communities weren't safe, and it amplified the PSA's urgency. Parents nationwide now wondering if group outings were truly secure. In the wake of Chowchilla, media coverage intensified the national conversation around child safety, dovetailing with the PSA's nightly broadcasts. This growing awareness set the stage for more urban tragedies like the one that struck New York City just 3 years later. On May 25, 1979, the Friday before Memorial Day, 6-year-old Etan Patz bounded out of his family's loft in Soho, a vibrant but gritty neighborhood of artists and warehouses. It was the last day of school before summer break, and for the first time, his parents, Stan and Julie, allowed him to walk the 2 blocks to the bus stop alone. Dressed in a black Eastern Airlines future pilot cap, blue jeans, and sneakers, carrying $1 for a soda at the bodega, Etan kissed his mother goodbye around 8 a.m. and stepped into Prince Street. He never made it to the corner of West Broadway. No one saw him board the bus. By afternoon, when he didn't return home, panic set in. Searches combed the streets. Flyers blanketed lampposts. Etan's cherubic face, blonde hair, bright smile became synonymous with missing children. His was one of the first images printed on milk cartons in 1985, part of a campaign that reached millions. The case spurred President Reagan to declare May 25th National Missing Children's Day in 1983. Investigations pointed to possible suspects over the years, including convicted pedophile Jose Ramos, who dated Etan's babysitter and confessed to seeing him that day. In 2017, Pedro Hernandez was convicted of Etan's murder based on confessions, though doubts linger. In 2025, the conviction was overturned, giving Hernandez the opportunity for a retrial, which must commence before June 1st, 2026. His fate is to be determined. Etan's body was never recovered. He was declared dead in 2001. His disappearance symbolized the vulnerability of city kids in an era of loosening supervision, making the 10 p.m. PSA feel like a premonition for urban parents checking empty bedrooms. Etan's story overlapped with a wave of terror in Atlanta, Georgia, where from July 1979 to May 1981, at least 29 children, adolescents, and young adults, mostly boys from low-income neighborhoods, vanished and were later found murdered. The victims, aged 7 to 28, were often snatched during mundane activities, walking to the store, playing outside, or heading to after-school jobs. 9-year-old Yusuf Bell disappeared while running an errand for cigarettes. Edward Smith, 14, vanished on July 21, 1979, after leaving the Greenbrier skating rink, while Alfred Evans, 13, disappeared 4 days later on July 25th. Their bodies were discovered together in the woods on July 28th. Bodies turned up in wooded areas, rivers, or abandoned buildings, many asphyxiated. The community, already strained by poverty and racial tensions, mobilized. Volunteers searched parks, churches held vigils, and a curfew was imposed for minors. The 10 p.m. PSA aired on local stations like WSB-TV with heightened poignancy as parents in Atlanta's housing projects kept stricter watch. The investigation, dubbed the Atlanta Child Murders, drew national attention, with the FBI joining in 1980. Surveillance on bridges over the Chattahoochee River led to the arrest of 23-year-old Wayne Bertram Williams on June 21, 1981, after fibers from his home and car matched those on multiple victims. Convicted in 1982 of murdering 2 adults, Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne, Williams was linked by authorities to at least 22 others through circumstantial evidence. He maintains his innocence, and some cases remain open, with theories of multiple killers or Ku Klux Klan involvement floated, but unproven. The murders exposed systemic inequalities, showing how marginalized children were disproportionately at risk and fueled the push for better missing persons protocols. As Atlanta mourned, another daylight abduction rocked the nation. On July 27, 1981, in Hollywood, Florida, 6-year-old Adam Walsh accompanied his mother, Rive, to Sears at the Hollywood Mall. While she browsed lamps just aisles away, Adam lingered at a video game display, watching older boys play Atari. A minor argument led a security guard to usher the teens out, and Adam, perhaps following, exited through a different door. Minutes later, he was gone. Rive's frantic search turned into a massive manhunt. 2 weeks later, on August 10th, fishermen discovered Adam's severed head in a Vero Beach canal 120 miles north. The rest of his body was never found. Serial killer Otis Toole confessed multiple times before recanting. Police closed the case in 2008, attributing it to him, though doubts persist. Adam's father, John Walsh, transformed his anguish into action, founding the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 1984 and hosting America's Most Wanted from 1988. The case underscored mall safety lapses and accelerated milk carton campaigns, intertwining with the PSA to remind parents that threats lurked in everyday errands. Just over a year later, on September 5th, 1982, in the quiet suburb of West Des Moines, Iowa, 12-year-old Johnny Gosch set out before dawn for his Sunday paper route with the Des Moines Register. He loaded his red wagon with newspapers and set off accompanied by his dachshund Gretchen. Witnesses reported seeing him speaking to a man near a blue Ford Fairmont at the paper drop point, with another vehicle possibly involved. By around 7 a.m., Gretchen returned home alone and undelivered papers were scattered along the street. Johnny had vanished without a trace. His parents, John and Noreen Gosch, launched an exhaustive search and kept the case in the public eye. Johnny's photo became one of the early faces on milk cartons nationwide, and Noreen's tireless advocacy helped lead to the passage of the Johnny Gosch Bill in Iowa, which mandated immediate police response to reports of missing children rather than waiting 72 hours. The case remains unsolved and cold as of 2026, with no arrests and no confirmed resolution from authorities who consider it an active but long-term investigation. Theories have proliferated over the decades, including the possibility of an organized abduction. Noreen Gosch has long maintained that her son was kidnapped into a pedophile or child sex trafficking ring, a belief that intensified in the late 1980s and early 1990s after Paul Benassi, a convicted sex offender serving time in Nebraska, came forward in 1991, claiming he had been forced to participate in Johnny's abduction as part of a larger network tied to the controversial Franklin Credit Union scandal in Omaha, which involved unproven allegations of child prostitution and abuse linked to figures like Lawrence E. King. Benassi, who had a history of mental health issues, including multiple personality disorder, provided details that Noreen found convincing, such as knowledge of Johnny's physical marks, though Nebraska investigators dismissed his account as unreliable or a hoax. Noreen further claimed that in March 1997, nearly 15 years after the disappearance, an adult Johnny, accompanied by an unidentified man, secretly visited her at home in the early morning hours. She said he explained that he had been victimized by a pedophile organization, was discarded when he grew too old, and now lived under an assumed identity out of fear for his safety, warning her not to alert authorities. Johnny's father, John, divorced from Noreen since 1993, has publicly expressed doubt about whether this visit occurred, and law enforcement has never confirmed it or located Johnny. This case epitomized the risks of early morning independence in an era before widespread awareness of stranger abductions, echoing the PSA's nightly question in Midwestern homes while fueling ongoing debates between those who see it as a tragic, unsolved kidnapping and those drawn to broader conspiracy narratives. These individual heartbreaks weren't isolated. They occurred against a backdrop of organized threats. In the mid-1970s, Francis Duffield Sheldon, a wealthy heir from a prominent Detroit family, owned North Fox Island, a remote, roughly 800-acre parcel in northern Lake Michigan that he had acquired in 1960 for $20,000. He transformed it into a seemingly idyllic retreat by adding an airstrip for small planes, along with some cabins and trails. Under the guise of philanthropy, Sheldon and Associates incorporated a tax-exempt organization in 1975 called Brother Paul's Children's Mission, which presented itself as a charitable summer camp offering mentorship, guidance, and outdoor experiences to disadvantaged and underprivileged boys, often recruited from urban areas across the Midwest, including runaways and those from challenging home environments. In reality, the island served as an isolated site for systematic sexual abuse and exploitation. Vulnerable boys were flown in via private charters, isolated from the mainland, assaulted by Sheldon and a network of men, and photographed for the production and distribution of child pornography through underground channels. Wealthy visitors reportedly paid for access, while the materials provided a revenue stream for those who couldn't afford in-person involvement. The operation's remoteness, accessible primarily by air, and the perpetrator's social standing helped shield it for years. The scheme began to collapse in 1976 when a victim came forward, prompting charges against accomplice Gerald Richards, a teacher and part-time magician, for molestation after concerns from a parent at his school. Richards allegedly warned Sheldon, who fled the country to the Netherlands before facing arrest. Raids and investigations in 1976 and 1977 uncovered evidence of the abuse and pornography ring, but Sheldon evaded extradition and lived as a fugitive until his reported death in 1996. Richards pleaded guilty to lesser charges and served a relatively short sentence. The exact number of victims remains uncertain, but estimates range from dozens to potentially hundreds, with the case highlighting how wealth, privilege, and isolation enabled hidden networks that a simple nightly public service announcement could never fully address. The 1970s also witnessed other exploitation rings that targeted runaways lured to cities with false promises of opportunity or escape, though not all were directly linked. Cases like North Fox amplified early fears of organized child trafficking and set a chilling precedent for later scandals. Decades later, these patterns echoed disturbingly in the case of Jeffrey Epstein, whose private island, Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands, became synonymous with allegations of sex trafficking and abuse of underage girls. Like Sheldon, Epstein used his immense wealth, private transportation, including jets and helicopters, and a facade of elite connections to allegedly facilitate exploitation, with victims transported to a remote, controlled location far from scrutiny. Recent discussions around unsealed Epstein files in 2025 and 2026 have renewed comparisons, noting how both men leveraged isolation, financial power, and influential circles to evade full accountability. Sheldon through flight and death abroad, Epstein through his 2019 suicide while awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges. While technology and global connectivity have evolved since the analog era of North Fox Island, the core elements, private havens shielded by privilege, recruitment of vulnerable youth, and the production of exploitative material, reveal a persistent, troubling continuity in how power can conceal predation across generations. These stories, woven into the cultural fabric of their times, underscore why the "Do you know where your children are?" PSA shifted from a gentle reminder to an enduring call for vigilance. By the early 1980s, milk cartons bore faces like Etan's and Johnny's, reaching breakfast tables nationwide. The founding of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Adam Walsh's Code Adam alerts in stores, and enhanced FBI involvement stemmed from these tragedies. The era's free-range parenting gave way to helicopter styles, shaping Gen X into a bridge generation, independent yet wary. Yet, statistics remind us, most abductions were familial or acquaintance-based. Stranger cases, though sensational, numbered around 100 annually. The PSA, born of general caution, became a lifeline amid moral panics, its legacy enduring in modern Amber Alerts and GPS trackers. As the hour grows late, that old question lingers. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? For those who couldn't answer yes, these stories honor their loss and the changes that came with it. May tonight's tales bring reflection, not fear, as you slip into sleep. Thank you for listening, and we'll meet you in the shadows next time. Until then, stay safe out there. Check on your children, hug your loved ones, hold them tight, and lock your doors. Good night. True Crime Sleep Stories is hosted and created by Kelly Brink, produced with the support of our dedicated team. Subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform to help us keep telling these haunting tales. Visit patreon.com/KellyBrink for exclusive content and to join our community. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.